Hello. Today we're going to be looking at some more time activities. We're going to look at 24-hour time and we're going to look at time zones. So please set up your book, the line down the centre of your page with a red pen and a ruler, your titles and underline and today's date. The WALT is applying mental, that's using just what's in your head, writing things down, using calculators as strategies to solve some time problems about 24-hour time and time zones. Now this is quite a long lesson, so if you need to pause and have a break, please feel free to do that. Pause and copy that down, please. It'd be a good idea to copy this down. I just googled this and found it, so you could find it on somewhere in Pinterest or something to copy it out if you like. But it's just got those numbers around the outside for a very quick reference when you're doing a 24-hour clock. So the inside is your 12-hour clock and your AMs for your 24. The outside is for your PMs when you change them into 24-hour time. We will go through that during the lesson. So remember, the hour hand's the short one when you've got analog or clock time. So copy that down or find your own one and print it off later. Okay, let's move on. Okay, first of all, so looking at our science lessons, time movement was first based on the movement of the moon around the earth and on the movement of the earth around the sun. So this is a scientific fact that you have done. The base unit of time is a second. The second is the time taken for that many waves of radiation from a cesium atom to pass a point. So it's very technical. But anyway, if you ever wanted to know why, that's why. Yeah, we need to have a little bit of a revision first because you will need these skills to do any of the 24-hour ones. We did this already. If you are struggling with this, go back to a previous video on time, the introduction of time. Copy these down if you don't remember them. You will need particularly these ones here to work with. This is another piece of information you will have learnt, so copy it down if you have forgotten it. There are 12 months in our calendar year. There are a number of days, and this varies between 28 and 31. And the mnemonic, this is the mnemonic you would have learnt. 30 days had September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31, except for February, which has 28 days clear and 29 days in a leap year. Copy that down if you've forgotten it. Let's have some quick revisions here. So this is the example. It's always a good idea to write down the example. We're going to convert 120 minutes to hours. So we're going from minutes to hours. We're going to a larger unit. We need a smaller number. To get a smaller number, we need to divide. The conversion factor is 60 minutes in an hour, so we divide by 60. A fraction is just a division sum written as a fraction. And of course, when you do that division, either in your head mentally or using your calculator, you will get 2 hours. Now we're going to convert the following here. Now remember, if you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you need to divide. If you're going from a larger unit to a smaller one, you will need to multiply. Remember the conversion factors we had, rewind, or the ones you've copied down. Away you go, have a go at those. How did you go? Well, these ones a bit tricky here where the answer was a fraction. Maybe you did a decimal. This one have a decimal. Remember, 0.2 hours is 2/10 of an hour. It's not 12 minutes. It's 2/10 of an hour. So 2/10 of 60 is 12. So please remember that when you see these. When you have a decimal point in time, it's tenths of the unit. It doesn't convert to the lower unit because it isn't in a decimal system. Okay, if you didn't know those, go back and revise them because you need to be able to do that for the next session. Some more revision. So if a car goes off an assembly line every 10 minutes, how many would you make in 1 hour? Now how many in 8 hours? How many in 40 hours? 48 weeks. So how many hours in 48 weeks? Away you go. This one takes time. So you've been alive for this many minutes. So convert that to hours, days, weeks, years. When you've got it to years, you'll be able to find how many birthdays you've had. This just takes time. It's not hard. It's doing this skill over and over again. Have a go. So as we said, there will be 6 cars every hour, wouldn't there? Because there's 6 10-minute blocks. And you had to convert this to weeks. The minutes is this many hours. So they went to minutes, then they went to hours, then they went to days, and then they went to 11. So you've had 11 years, 11 birthdays. Just took some time, didn't it? Number 4, you need, these are 2 trucks that are coming in. Mrs. O'Brien has kept the delivery times, and just have a look at those delivery times. What are they what schedule are they trying to maintain? Have a look at the times. So it's every half hour, isn't it? Every half hour, you have a look. Every half hour they're trying to make a delivery. And some more questions. Using that half hour delivery time, how many loads could be delivered after 5 hours? So they're making 2 an hour, aren't they? So each would make 10 deliveries in an hour, and there's 2 of them, so there would be 20 loads in total, wouldn't there? Have a go at these 2. How did you go? Very good. Now, 24-hour time. It would be a good idea if you paused now and copied this out. It's information you really need to know. So it's commonly used around the world. If you travel overseas, you will find that many countries work in 24 hours. And it goes from midnight to midnight. It goes from 0 to 23. It's an international standard, and hospitals use it, and if you go into the defence forces or the military, they also use it. Okay, and if it is before noon, it's very similar. So 9 AM in 12 hour is 0900 in 24 hour time. Hours after midday, written in 12 hour time, and 24 hour time. You will see they have added 12, it's plus 12 to there. So after midday you add 12. Midnight is zeros. Sometimes be 2400, but not always. So this is how it's spoken. So 7 p.m. is 1900 hours, or an H. Hours is an H. 3 a.m. is in 24 hour, they say 300 hours. And p.m. would be 15 because it's in the afternoon. You've added 12 to the 3. In 24 hour time, it's 1500 hours. You notice that 24 hour time has 4 digits and no words. It just isn't. It's in hours. It's not hours and minutes. It's in hours. You don't say AM and PM. AM and PM time is your 12-hour time. 24-hour time is in hours. So don't put an AM and a PM in 24 hours. AM and PM is only 12-hour time. Now here's a to-do one. We need this example, so copy down the working here. So AM, we don't need to change the hour for AM. We just need to write it as a 4-digit number with an H at the end. AM, morning, hours, 4 digits. Copy that down. Now PM, this example, you will need to add 12 because it's in the afternoon. You now need to express it as a 4-digit number with an H. So copy down those 2 examples, please. And now we're going to go back the other way. So if the hours, it's 1200 hours, or less than 1200 hours, all you need to do is put a decimal point between the 2 groups. And it becomes 7:15. Remember, it's AM because it's before midday. Now you're writing in AM because you're writing in 12-hour. If it was greater than 1200 hours, it's 1750 hours. Now you have to subtract that 12. And remember to put the decimal point between, it would be 0515 would be your answer. You need to put the decimal point here, so it's 5:15 p.m. because it's in the afternoon, because it's bigger than 12 and it's in the afternoon. Now let's practice that. Some examples for you to work on. Now think about it. AM, PM. Now we're going to convert back the other way. Larger than 12, smaller than 12. Go back at those examples and see how you go. So remember, 10, 30 hours, 4 digits and an hour. We don't need to change it because of AM. PM, we'll need to add 12, won't we? So 12 and 7 is 19. No decimal point. Hours. How are you going? Now this is bigger than 12, so we need to subtract the 12, don't we? So 20 minus 12 is 8. Then put your decimal point. 40. That's in the afternoon, so it's PM. Correct? And this one here is easy. It's less than the 12, so it's 9:20 a.m. How did you go? Very good. Okay, now would be a good time to take a break actually, because we're going to move on to exploring time zones. So pause, have a drink, have a little bit of a walk and come back. Okay. On the internet you will find many maps such like these ones here. I can't get it all in unless I go really, really high. But as you can see down the bottom here, it tells you what day it is, what time it is. So you lose a day when you're heading this way and you gain a day when you're going. So they've got the date line here. Now the date line is right through the centre. It seems very strange to us, so that when we are Monday, they're still Sunday. But if you look at a globe and you see in science and watch how it goes around, you know that the sun is hitting a different part of the world at different times. And they've just divided it up arbitrarily into 24 so that every hour the sun reaches exactly the same point. So when the sun rises here, an hour later it will be rising here, an hour later, and all the way around until 23 hours later it's rising here. So it resets when you get across the date line to the next day. Okay, so you need one of these maps here to help you with the problems. This is a bit of information. Don't need to write this down. So 1675, Greenwich Meridian was chosen as the standard reference zone that all time zones are referenced according to the Greenwich Mean Time. Queensland is Greenwich Mean Time plus 10. Officially, that is what it is, because we are 10 hours ahead. Let's have a look at the map. Greenwich Mean Time goes through just outside London here, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, 10 hours, that's in 2, isn't it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Read the map. Yes, 10 hours ahead, as you can see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We are 10 hours ahead. Since 1972, they have changed that and they now use Universal Time Coordinated. And in the definition of time zones, instead of using the Greenwich Mean, it's because the scientists and computers needed to be more accurate. We got computers, we worked out how to do it far more accurately, so we based it upon atomic measurements rather than the position of the sun. So it became far more accurate. For most of the time, for what we are going to do, it's exactly the same, nothing changed. So instead of Greenwich Mean Time plus 10, it's Universal Time Coordinated plus 10. That doesn't change, fortunately. So, Australia and Singapore. Let's have a look and see which city in Singapore is in the same time zone. Perth, isn't it? So Singapore is in the time zone of Perth. Very good. So it's Perth. Same as Tokyo this time. So let's have a look at Australia and find Tokyo. Here's Tokyo here. It's the same time zone as Adelaide, isn't it? No, same time zone as Adelaide. The difference between Brisbane and Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. Brisbane and Buenos Aires. I'll have to look at the numbers down the bottom. Have a go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. No, it's actually the whole way round. You have to go all the way around. So 10 plus 14. 14 hours. It's not the gap this way. It's the gap all the way around. So it's 10 here, so it'll be 14 going all the way around. Now the Australian one. Let's have a look at Australia. As you can see, Australia is divided up into 3 zones. You see that orange dotted line there? And you can see that Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania are all in the Eastern Standard Time. We have a Central Standard Time, and that's the Northern Territory and South Australia. You can see it's half an hour behind us, 12, only half an hour behind us. And in the Western Standard Time Zone is Western Australia, mostly Perth, and you'll see there's a 2-hour time gap. Okay, you need to know this to answer these questions. So I just told you the answer to the first one. How many time zones did I tell you? That's right, 3. Now let's look at the Eastern Australian time zone. How many capital cities can you find? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Correct. And the time difference from Perth to Sydney, I did mention it. Have a look. Perth on the western coast, Sydney on the eastern coast. 12, 10, 2 hours. That's correct. However, just to throw a little bit of a curly one in, we do Eastern Daylight Saving Time. It's important you understand Daylight Saving Time, because often when you go to find a TV program or want to watch something in a different state, if it's in the middle of summer, it might be at a different time zone. So New South Wales and Victoria, they observe it, and so does Tasmania. Queensland's the only one, the eastern one, that does not observe daylight saving. South Australia and the Australian Capital Territory. So Queensland and the West Australia and the Northern Territory do not observe daylight saving. So we end up then with quite a few different time zones during daylight saving, which is done September to March or something like that. Daylight saving observed. It begins at 2 a.m. on that morning that they started, the first Sunday in October, and then it goes from 2 a.m. you move your clock to 3 a.m. You'll probably do it in the next morning. It ends at 2 a.m. again, which is 3 a.m. daylight saving, on the first Sunday of April. So it's October to April. Okay, and they have to put it back. So they have to change their clocks all the time. They don't do it as it says here. They do it before they go to bed or first thing the next morning. And anything digital will automatically do that. If you go into New South Wales, all your digital clocks will suddenly become daylight saving time. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time to happen. So here's a rundown of that. So normal time and Australian Eastern Summer Time. And this is Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's daylight saving time. So Eastern Standard Time and daylight saving time. The ones who go into daylight saving, might be an idea to copy that down while you are copying down, working this out. So what time is it in Broome? That's way over in Western Australia. It's 8:15 p.m. in Brisbane on the 4th of July. It's not in daylight saving because July is winter, and Western Australia is 2 hours behind, so we subtract the 2. And this one's done in December. Daylight saving, no daylight saving, yes, daylight saving. So Queensland is half an hour behind, so we have to subtract half an hour from the time. So let's do some June ones now. In the middle of winter, no daylight saving. So 8:20 in Brisbane. We need to know the time in those. Have a look. So what time will Sydney be? Exactly the same, isn't it? Adelaide, have a look at Adelaide. Adelaide is here. And it is half an hour, isn't it? So you need to take off half an hour. So it's 7:50 a.m. And Perth, remember Perth is on the other side here, and it's a 2 hour difference. Remember Perth is behind us, So we have to take 2 hours off, 6:20 a.m. So we're getting ready to getting into school. They're just getting up. Okay. December. Longreach and Hobart. Remember Longreach in summer, Queensland, Tasmania. So there will be a difference of an hour, won't there, because they're in daylight saving. So it will be ahead of us, won't it? It will already be 3:30 p.m. It takes a while to get used to daylight saving time. It can be very confusing. November, summer, daylight saving. Melbourne in Victoria, daylight saving. Cairns in Queensland, no daylight saving. So it will be 10 a.m, won't it? Of course, Cairns is an hour behind Melbourne. Okay, January, daylight saving. Sydney in New South Wales. This is when it arrives, and that's when it arrives in Townsville 2 hours and 45 minutes later. What time is it in Townsville when it leaves? So convert to the Townsville time first, and it is 9:10 because Townsville is not in daylight saving. So we'll convert this Sydney time. So when you take off from Sydney, convert your clock back to 9:10, and then 2 hours and 45 minutes later, it's 11:55, isn't it? AM. Have a look at those and work through those and have a good think about it. I'll put the actual working out there now for you. So go through the working out. Write down any hints you need to help you to do that work. Okay. Travel itineraries quote the local time of departure and the destination. This can get very confusing because you can't just subtract them, because if they're in different time zones, it makes a difference. So you might be leaving at 6 and landing at 8, but that's what's on the clock at the airport. So the airport, it's 600 hours, and when you leave and when you get there, it's 800 hours when you land. Depends on where you're going. If you're going from Roma to Brisbane by plane, it won't matter much, will it? You can just subtract. Okay, so that's the amount of time her flight is. The larger number first, subtract the smaller number, and write that down. This example is harder. I'm just waiting for it to find the sheet, find its focus. There it comes now. Okay, let's add to that previous example. This time the plane was delayed by 45 minutes. That's pretty usual. Then the flight is a bit longer than normal because there's some bad weather. They might have to go around or slow down. So you're going to have to add those onto it. So there's your new arrival time in 24 and 12-hour time. So copy down that example. If you have access to your Jack Plus, you can go to the unit 10.9, that's got the 24-hour clock and the 12-hour zones. All this information is there. This is a good one to copy down as well. A lot of these things on your Jack Plus are automatically marked, which is very helpful. There are more examples on how to work out the conversion. Then goes on to your time zones and that map, the different map, the one I showed you. This is the map that's in your Jacaranda one, much more detailed. Okay, lots more information that's there. There's another worked example here for your time zones. Daylight saving time is explained to you. There's some information there you might like to copy down. And another worked example. So all of these things will be on Jack Plus for you to use and the self-mark. And there's a whole lot of problems for you to work on. You can work on them in your Jack Plus. And some more here to work on. And I will give you those answers. Okay. The rest, you only need to go to here. This is for the next lot here. So just those last few there for those last questions. Okay, good luck.